First of all, I would like to extend special thanks to the Tawakkol Karman Foundation and to the chairman of the foundation, Ms. Tawakkol Karman. And I would like to extend thanks to Mrs. Misk Al-Junaid. I will change the language of address because I prepared my presentation in English.
The memory of previous wars and political violence play an important role in political mobilization and positioning. We all know that the war in Yemen has led to the emergence of new armed factions and has aggravated the phenomenon of regional political centers, particularly as a result of direct interference by regional powers, threatening the very integrity of Yemen. Aggravating the fragmented political landscape, some of these regional poles have become the focus on internal rivalries for their control, as in Aden, Taiz, Mahra, Socotra, and Taiz, and have become incubators of future wars. As a result of that, another aspect which must be taken into consideration is the moral distance which was established between the different regions of Yemen because of the enduring conflict which has isolated parts of the country from each other. This isolation has been aggravated by the tendency of some political powers to exclude those located beyond what they considered as their borders in order to achieve their political domination. The dynamics of war have also resulted in extreme fragmentation of the Yemeni public sphere and of the components of the civil society. The territorial, regional, and political fragmentation which have emerged from conflictual relationships rely also on the memory of previous wars, 62, 86, 94, 2004 till 2010. The current war has also led to many internal wars in Sana'a, Taiz, and Aden. Thus, the question of dealing with these war memories will be an important challenge for the post-war period, and it is directly related to the topic of national reconstruction and transitional justice. If the amnesty of the warlords in Yemen is part of a general agreement to end the conflict, there is a risk that it will impose this kind of forced amnesia through which the vivid memory of war might prevent the steady progress of the social and political reconstruction processes. After 5 years of war, we can already observe that the voices of the victims are not heard, are rarely recorded, and are concealed by political propaganda and the erratic numbers of casualties given by international organizations. Post-war Yemen will probably face a territorial and community fragmentation of war memory because war experiences differ from one region to another. It will be an important challenge to overcome the confrontation of conflicting memories. In numerous cases, what has been labeled as the competition of victims has often led to a war of memories. It is known that the prioritization of victims and memories depends on the strength of the institutions that give them official status and recognition. An important aspect of the national reconstruction process will concern the mechanism to be implemented to overcome the compartmentalization of suffering and the intolerance that qualifies partisan and community memories. How to set up a forgiveness policy, a forgiveness that only victims can offer in order to legitimize a right to forget that is an integral part of any construction of memory. I can here refer to the famous lecture of the French historian Ernest Renan in 1882, in his, it was called What is a Nation?, who stated that a nation is based as much on what the people jointly remember, on shared memory, and on what they forget, such as inter-religious killings in the case of France. Preparing the reconstruction and the transitional justice processes require that the research for historical truth needs to be appropriated by the population through the civil use of history. As it is usual in internal wars, even if they have a regional dimension, as in Yemen, the victims of the other camp are not considered as innocents, as if the only real victims are those who belong to one camp rather than another. Because the internal enemy is perceived as an extension of the external enemy. Their status as victim is denied. In the Yemeni context that is marked by the deterioration of cultural infrastructures, particularly in the field of publishing and the press, and the dispersal of a large part of the cultural elite, not to mention the censorship that takes place within the country, an urgent task is to encourage the reconstitution of the Yemeni cultural field and public sphere. It appears that post-war national reconstruction and transitional justice processes require not only the documentation of human rights violations and war crimes, as it has been already undertaken, but also the establishment of a long-term initiative to collect war testimonies in the different regions of Yemen by Yemeni social science students who will be trained in the methods of collecting and using oral sources. In this respect, we must praise the courageous work of collecting testimonies of war victims, which has been undertaken by Ms. Bushra al-Makhtari in her book, ماذا تركت وراك أصوات من بلاد الحرب المنسية, What You Left Behind, Voices from the Country of the Forgotten War. But as we know, the book market has largely disappeared in Yemen, and Yemeni publications are nowadays accessible only through internet. It would be highly recommended that the project of collecting memories accompanies the creation of a virtual Yemeni database that includes contemporary cultural production. These projects will thus be connected to the objective of increasing the quality and the scope of knowledge production in Yemen, and the unveiling of social, cultural, economic, and political problems through social sciences. As it has been stated by the French sociologist Bernard Lahire, sociology helps to face the cruel reality of things in order to be able to think rationally about how to act against the unequal state of things. Furthermore, public policy needs to be elaborated in order to lead to the official recognition of the different voices which deal with war memories. It will concern the writing of a unified history textbook, the definition and selection of heritage markers, particularly through people's participation of the inhabitants in expressing their memory and belonging within the planning process during the phase of reconstruction. The reconstruction process will play an important role in the recognition of all war victims by associating local communities in both the urban and rural areas in the planning process in order to achieve a kind of therapeutic planning in the sense that has been defined by Leonie Sandercock, I quote, creating safe spaces and to enable people in the situations of conflict to express their fears, desires, and hopes without being threatened if they speak out. As I have already mentioned, it is also important to take into consideration the fact that the war in Yemen is an extremely localized conflict and that the experience of war is different from one region to another. Moreover, the reconstruction process will require to be decentralized in order to reflect the various war conditions and experiences of local communities. To avoid precedent mistakes concerning architectural and urban reconstruction, here I will mention the example of the reconstruction of downtown Beirut, which has been isolated from the rest of the city. It will be of crucial importance to reconcile the restoration of local heritage with the social, economic, and political imperatives of reconstruction. Thank you.
Thank you.